This is Ron and Blue, just taking my daily walk here in Hua Hin, Thailand. And today's topic is on giving up your car. Recently, the concept of owning a car has been slowly changing. And if you look at how much it really costs to, have a car, you're looking at fuel costs, insurance, government taxes, overall maintenance. All of those things really add up. And the average person actually spends around $3,000 per year for all of that. Some people who have, higher end vehicles actually pay more, like 5,000 bucks a year. So it becomes pretty costly in having a vehicle. Actually, on top of that, the average household has about 2 vehicles. So you take that amount of money and you have to double it up. And that's how much it costs. So sometimes it costs a little bit of money to be able to own 2 cars. So within the average household, you have your home and then you have your 2 cars. It becomes pretty expensive after a while. But that's normal right now in North America, and having 2 cars and doubling up on the maintenance, doubling up on insurance, doubling up on government taxes, and also fuel. So it becomes pretty pricey, and the reason being is because both parties within the household has a job, so it's a lot more convenient for both people to have a vehicle. There are a number of different options today that are available. You can rent a car and drive it yourself, or you can have others drive for you, like carpooling. There's also autonomous cars now too that are slowly becoming popular and standardized. That's probably what's going to become mainstream later in the future, I bet. But there's other types of transportation as well, like you can actually rent bicycles as well, and there's also those scooters as well. Those things are all over the streets right now from what I see, but there's a lot of different options. You can get away from owning your own car, really. But let's not forget Uber as well. Uber is definitely an option out there, but essentially, if you think about it, owning your car, I mean, most of the time the car actually just sits in your garage. I would say 90% of the time it just sits there idle, and the only time you really drive it is to and from work, or to and from grocery store, or whatever it may be. But online shopping has actually made it really efficient for people to just buy their stuff online now, so it doesn't really require you to physically go to any kinds of shopping malls at all. So it's pretty awesome. Of course, people in those larger cities don't even have vehicles, right? Because they have the subway or the trains available to them to use, so they don't really need a vehicle. So it cuts out a very, very huge expense out of their daily living costs. So if you think from that perspective, you want to ask yourself, do you really need a vehicle? If you didn't have a vehicle and you were to be able to save $3,000 to $5,000 a year of not having a vehicle, you can spend that on food if you wanted to, and obviously you'll have extra surplus as well to do other things. So they've actually done studies on this as well, like people who have been taking the Uber instead of having their own vehicles. And it actually turned out that having an Uber and driving around with that type of transportation is actually overall a lot more cost effective. And yeah, I mean, it first began as an experiment, but the facts do show that actually taking an Uber, although getting from point A to point B is probably more costly at that point in time, but overall, if you were to calculate that out on an annual basis, driving in a Uber or taking an Uber might not be a bad idea, because you'll be saving, definitely saving compared to owning your own car. I mean, it is true that gasoline prices are getting cheaper, but people still love those big SUVs, right? Whenever the gasoline prices or the oil prices decrease, right now I believe it's floating around $55 to $60 USD a barrel. but the gasoline prices are a lot cheaper, and people still buy those big SUVs, right? I mean, do you really need a SUV to be driving around the city? And some of those people don't even use it for recreation, right? They only buy it just for the status of it, but they don't actually go out and use it outdoors, which is interesting enough. So they're basically purchasing an SUV just for the style of it, and not necessarily using it for what it's been created to be used for. But what I see is a lot of Thais, you know, as you can see around me, they drive scooters, right? And scooters isn't actually a bad idea either. Like, you know, it's really cheap to operate a scooter. I mean, it's kind of dangerous, of course, but if that's what you're, you know, used to having, you know, filling up a tank of gasoline for a scooter really isn't that expensive per month. But if you look at Thailand right now, look at all the cars that are just passing by, you know, creating all of that pollution. I mean, Bangkok was actually rated one of the dirtiest cities in the world, and this is the reason why. Because the people here is also, you know, driving or buying those cars as well and creating that exhaust. So things have to change, you know. That's another thing about owning a vehicle. You're adding more to the pollution out there. Yeah, in the future, there'll probably be autonomous cars out there. You know, they'll pick you up from one place, and then those cars will probably be working the whole entire time, other than just having the car sit in a garage idle, which is very wasteful in a lot of ways. That's what happens when you purchase a car, because most of the time your car just sits there in the garage doing absolutely nothing. I mean, having a vehicle is very convenient, you know, definitely convenient, and that's why a lot of people have vehicles, right? But the thing is, it's actually more better to have sorry, there's dogs around me trying to attack me or something. Yeah, I gotta be careful. The dog right behind me. The dog following me. You can consider you know, alternatives to the car. Like you can adapt to all of those options out there, right? It's all about whatever's in your mindset, right? Whether or not you're looking to really save that dollar, you know, it depends on how much you want it. And one really big thing to do is really to get rid of your vehicle. But times are really changing right now, especially with the millennials. For example, millennials in Japan, what they used to do, you know, when they got the university degrees or their schooling through the educational system, their dream was to get a car and a watch, right? That was the definition of what a man was in Japan. But then the thing is, nowadays with the millennials, they're no longer buying the cars, you know, they're no longer buying the watches. You know, the status is really changing. So having a vehicle isn't really a status symbol anymore. So because the millennials are smart enough to know that it's very expensive to have a vehicle, so that's why it's no longer an option for them. You can also travel by bicycle as well. Like, bicycle is a really great way to travel around, and you actually are able to exercise as well. Yeah, I would definitely choose a bicycle as well. I mean, it's old school. It's what the people back in the day used to do, right? And it can get, you know, you can travel far distances with using a bicycle as well. So that's a great way to travel as well, except for maybe during the winter season, especially if you live in a city that's a little bit snowy. Then you can take other alternative transportation modes, like the bus. Well, I think I have my vlog here today. Tell me what you would do. Would you get rid of your car? And would you try those other alternative transportation methods? If you like this vlog, please don't forget to give me a like, subscribe if you haven't already, and hit that notification bell for more of my coming content here. Thank you for watching my vlog. Be free, gain wealth, and travel far.